Today we are joined by Mr. Ajay Sahai, CEO of FIO, Federation of Indian Export Organizations. Good afternoon, Mr. Sahai,
Good afternoon.
and thank you for joining us. My first question to you would be, what has been the impact of the Make in India scheme since its launch in 2014 on Indian manufacturing and MSMEs?
In fact, the basic idea of Make in India is to put emphasis on the manufacturing because share of manufacturing in India's GDP is pretty low. And India, in fact, has defied the conventional economic transition where country moves from an agriculture economy to a manufacturing and then to the services. In fact, we transited directly from agriculture to services. And that has created problem for creation of jobs into the country. With Make in India, we are looking into providing competitiveness to Indian manufacturing. It has to be a gradual process, little drawn process. That's why in the segment where infrastructure and logistics cost is playing a role, we are expecting result to come in a little longer time. And where this is not much important, particularly the high value, low volume item, it has already started yielding the result. Just to emphasize the point, in the mobile segment, when Make in India was launched in 2016-17, India was a net importer of mobile. The total net deficit on the mobile sector alone was around $20 billion. That means export vis-a-vis the import, the difference was $20 billion. In the last financial year of 2022-23, it has come down to $3.5 billion only. In the month of March, we were a net surplus. That means India's mobile export exceeded India's mobile imports. And the way manufacturing is now looking into India, we are expecting that this year probably we may turn out to be positive in the mobile segment. Same is true on the electronic sector. In large electronic segment, we are seeing India's export growth is moving. We have now created a base of around $25 billion plus in electronic export. The compound annual growth rate is around 40 to 50%. But in the low value, high volume items, we expect that little time will take. But the ecosystem which is being developed into the country, where we are looking into the infrastructure improvement, we are looking into investing around $1 trillion infrastructure. We have recently brought our logistics policy where we are looking into reducing the logistics cost from 13 to 14% of GDP to 8 to 9% of that GDP. We are focusing more on the scaling. The government has put focus on quality and standardization. So I'm pretty sure that the way the ecosystem for manufacturing is developing, in times to come, we will be a province in the manufacturing sector. We all know that China has become less competitive in the manufacturing, and that's an opportunity for India. We have attracted a lot of investment in the manufacturing also. In fact, after the launch of the Make in India, the FDI, which used to be around $45 billion a year, has reached around $90 billion a year. And in the 15 PLI sector, we are looking into investment in a big way. And I'm pretty sure that in times to come, India will be a force to be reckoned in the manufacturing as well.
Sir, you mentioned there that in the electronics and even in the automobile sector, there has been considerable expansion. These are usually capital intensive industries, and these industries are usually led by the big MNCs. And you also said that it will take some time for MSMEs, for low value products, the companies which make low value products, to come with pace with all these big companies. What is the reason that it is taking time for MSMEs to reap the benefits of the Make in India campaign?
I think MSMEs in India face a big challenge because when you are looking into the micro industry, which is fairly large segment of the total MSMEs, they are too small. And therefore, I think when we are looking into their total share in production, we are not looking into much share, but when it comes to the creation of the jobs, the emphasis on that also. I think government is also looking into to have comparable MSME with the SMEs in the Europe, and that's why the new MSME definition has allowed the investment in plant and machinery up to 50 crore and export turnover up to 250 crore, because these kinds of companies will definitely take a healthy competition with the SMEs in other countries also. We know that there is little emphasis on the investment in the critical sector of technology, and that's why the PLI scheme, we are looking into a sizable investment, and probably that investment will flow from large company, be it the domestic company or be it the local company. But I think in the PLI scheme, the way we are emphasizing on the value addition and local content, these large companies will set up the ancillaries in India, which will be the MSMEs only. We have seen that to be very successful in the automobile sector when initially Suzuki came. We developed SMEs as their ancillaries, and these SMEs initially supplied to the Suzuki and then later to Maruti Suzuki. But these are now the world leader in the auto component. One of the reasons why India has been very successful in the auto component sector is because the large companies have set up their base. And through a hub and spoke model, we have developed the SMEs. So I'm pretty sure that kind of experiment will be also true for the other segment. The sector where India is having a huge potential are, of course, the machinery, electrical and electronics and automobile sector. Fortunately, they are the largest chunk. If I'm looking into the total global trade, almost 1/3 of the global trade is contributed by these segments, and India has fairly large imports of that. So the PLI scheme, which covers all the segment, I'm pretty sure that we will be having a huge production base, which will help not only in export but also compressing imports. And through the ancillary mechanism, SMEs will play a role into that.
Sir, in order for SMEs and even the medium-sized industries to expand, there is a need for them to join the formal structure. And we know that still a major chunk of the manufacturing employment workforce remains outside the formal sector. It's part of the informal workforce. So what is the government of India doing, and and how does the Make in India scheme will help to bring them back into the formal fold, because it has been a significant amount of time since that scheme has been launched?
No, in fact, if you are looking into the transition of informal sector to the formal sector, it has already started in a big way. GST has been the game changer for that. One of the reasons why GST collection is improving is not only the fact that India's growth is going up, but also the fact that large scale of informal sector is turning out to be formal sector. And that's is something which is very good for India in the long run. For the SMEs also, we feel that they have to look into how they can increase their competitiveness, and some amount of technology has to be infused by them in their base also. I think today IT is being used by SMEs also in a big way. We hope that the second generation of businesses which are coming will put definitely focus on technology. In fact, SMEs will face a very difficult situation because even in the labor intensive sectors, they will have competition from some of the technology driven economies also. So to meet that competition, there has to be focus on the technology, but I think government is also looking into the providing the overall competitiveness to the sector. The labor laws have been a challenge. The government is looking into reforming the labor laws. States have taken a lead because states are also competing among themselves to attract foreign investment. We are putting a lot of emphasis on the skilling also. The National Skill Development Mission is coming. We have sector-specific councils also are playing a role. There is need to have more industry participation in the skilling so that the skill which is being provided is relevant to the industry. We have seen in the past that many of times skills which are being provided is not used by the industry. So industry has greater responsibility to integrate into these kind of skilling program. And I'm pretty sure with the skilling coming into with the focus and flexibility in the labor laws and overall infrastructure developing into the country, we will see success of Make in India in all the sectors.
But sir, you mentioned that there has been a constant flow of FDI into the country. Major bigwigs from outside the country have set up their manufacturing bases here, especially in terms of automobiles and electronics. And there has been initiative by the government of India in terms of Skill India and all these schemes to increase the semi-skilled and skilled workforce. But still, the manufacturing employment percentage in the country remains at 12% only. What is the reason for that?
No, in fact, the prime reason for that is that probably the service sector in India is doing extremely well, and that's why with the launch of Make in India, the kind of share which we wanted manufacturing to occupy in the country has not happened. Nobody at that point of time that services sector will be growing at such a fast pace. To me, that seems to be the reason, but we are also conscious of the fact that in a country like India, manufacturing only provide the blue collar job. Services industry, by and large, with the exception of travel and tourism and logistics, is highly in white collar job. So if we have to address the problem of employment into the country, we have to bring focus. And unfortunately, in the agriculture sector, we are seeing that with further uh, fragmenting of the holding of the land, it is not becoming that much remunerative. On the one hand, government is looking to the cooperative and corporate to come into the holding of the land. That will help, but we have to see how the labor is migrated from the agriculture to manufacturing, and that's why I think our roadmap has to put focus on manufacturing. Of late, we have seen that with the China slowing down and the cost increasing in China, India is definitely in a position to occupy that space. For labor intensive sector, there will always be a kind of dichotomy how you compete with the technology. And I think in some of the segment like gems and jewelry, or in other segment where a lot of handwork is required, probably that kind of challenge is not there. But in other labor intensive sector, we will have that kind of challenge.
Yes, sir. But in terms of labor intensity, why don't we bring in advanced technologies which involve more labor output, which involves labor to make and create those technologies, rather than bringing in technologies which substitute the labors?
No, I entirely agree with you, and that's why probably the government, if you look into the recent budget also, has talked about the reskilling and upskilling. I think, yeah, your point is well taken. We have to bring those kind of technologies which will help the worker also to develop his skill. And that's why upskilling is something which is new to Indian economy, but this new government has put a lot of emphasis on that. Let us be very clear that technology will be a great disruption, but we have no other option but to live with that. Of course, we have to bring that kind of technology which supplement the labor rather than replace the labor. And from that perspective, I think the reskilling and upskilling will definitely help a lot.
Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Saha. It was a very enchanting interview with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.